Welcome back to another episode of How I Got the Shot. My name is DioBurto. I'm a fashion and portrait photographer based out of Miami, Florida. Today's episode is going to focus on a campaign for a company called Swimwear by Courtney. The location itself was gorgeous. Right off the water, really huge mansion with its like bohemian theme as far as the furniture and just the overall feel of how they had everything set up. Like the decor, the color choices, everything kind of hit this whole bohemian island feel to it. The way they had everything set up made it feel like you were at a resort, which fits my client's products perfectly. As you guys can see, the swimwear itself is not like super elaborate. It's very much on the essential side, but the material that it's made of is high quality. It gives you that luxury feel that you would expect from something in that price range. And then overall, the fit is amazing. Anytime I have a project with a client, I always have a consultation prior to shooting. And honestly, before we talk about money or anything, I want to have a really good idea what they're going for and what their goals are creatively. Also, if you guys hear anything in the background, it's my daughter. High five to being a parent. All right, so after that conversation, I took everything into consideration and created a new mood board, essentially taking all of the ideas that she discussed and showed me and elevated those with my taste in photography, and then we were good to go. On the day of the session itself, makeup started really early in the morning because when you're trying to get makeup and hair done for 4 models, it's good to start as early as possible to make sure everybody's on the same page with the application and execution of the concepts, in addition to, making sure nobody's rushing. So by the time that I arrived, everything was pretty much set. I just need to get all my gear set up. So for this session, I was shooting with the Canon R5, tethered using the Tether tools cable, USB-C to USB-C, into my 15-inch Macbook Air, which I pretty much only use for tethering. I was also shooting with the Profoto B1X and also a 5-foot octabox. The only other tool I was using was also a large reflector. On set, I always have my 6-foot reflector with me and also like I think it's 24-inch reflector. It's like a circular reflector. But I always keep those with me because you just never know. But sometimes it just speeds up the process just to use a reflector over going through the process of setting up the strobes. We had about 7 or 8 looks. I don't remember the exact number, but for each model, we assigned swimwear to them and then we assigned a location. And as you can see on this keynote that I created, everything was mapped out and we pretty much stuck to this as well throughout the whole day. Now, the biggest thing that we dealt with once we had everything lined up was the sun. It messed up all of the planning that we did in the sense of the heat was like melting the makeup. There were times when a model would come to me and I take a couple of test shots of them and I realized that their makeup is shifted. So we got to send her back up into the AC to get her makeup retouched. And so that means moving on to another person. And when that person is done, I have to go backwards to that first person who's now done, but person number 3 who was waiting is now waiting even longer. So that's fun. And then on top of that, we're also shooting video as well. So there are times when the videographer will step in and get their shots and everything, and then I will go back to photo and then we'll go back and forth. The original idea was for us to start with video on person 1, and when he was finished, I would start shooting and I would start getting the photos, and then he would move on to his video concepts with person 2 at a different location. But again, the sun kind of messed up all of that. So we still tried our best to stick to that rotation, but we did the best we could. It was one of those scenarios where you got to go with the flow. We don't have time to complain. The sun is the sun, the heat is the heat. We are in Miami. There is a limited amount of shade and everyone did their best to just make the most of what we had. So now that we figured out what we were generally supposed to be doing, let me introduce some models to you guys. So we have Jada, we have Johanna, we have Bethany, and we have Carolyn. Amazing models. Each model brought a different energy to set, which, is kind of expected. You don't expect everybody to come and do the exact same thing, but it was a thing of where I had to work with each person to learn their techniques and learn their habits and learn like their approach to modeling, and then worked around that to get the shots that we need. So let's get to the technical parts and talking more about shooting. So I started off using a reflector, because I figured it'd be quicker if I can just bounce that light back into her face. But upon taking a few shots, I wasn't necessarily in love with what I was getting. I asked my assistant to bring out the Profoto B1X with a 5-foot octobox to get a more punchier light. I wanted more coverage, but I was running into some problems with my strobe. Visually, I did not feel like I was getting the right light output from the Profoto strobe. I know my camera settings, I've worked with these strobes for years, so I assume that maybe in one of the times that I've dropped this specific strobe in the past, that maybe that's why it's not put out the outfit. So I'm gonna go ahead and send that off soon. So because I have two, I always bring two B1Xs with me. I just swapped out the strobe and we were able to use it later and everything was fine. But it took me a minute to accept that that's what was going on. Once we got shots with the model in the shade, with the pop of light, we switched over to having her sit directly in the sunlight or standing in the sunlight. And then also throughout the day, we were always being as mindful as we could be with making sure that the swimwear itself was not turned or was getting bunched up, because that is a thing. Luckily, there were multiple people on set that could actually go fix it, so it was easy for me to kind of point it out and have someone fix it. From experience, I know that my clients hate seeing that, and then I hate trying to fix it. So it's always best to try to fix it on set. So I'm extremely glad that we had enough people there that could actually step in and help in that regard. So anytime I'm shooting in direct sunlight, I primarily use my shutter speed to adjust the exposure, because a lot of times the aperture that I've chosen is the aperture that I want. I don't want to increase my aperture and introduce more detail in the background of what I actually need for the shot. So in this scenario, I raised my shutter speed up to adjust for exposure, and we got our shots. Being that the second location was completely even light, I used pretty much natural light for the whole time. I used my reflector to get a little bounce in there, but then I got greedy and introduced my strobes, and the client loved that look. We spent more time using the strobe than we did with just natural light. We also tried shooting on the other side of like the unshaded side, and my client did not like it, so we just pretty much immediately moved, as you guys can see. And again, the models are amazing. That really made my job easy. She didn't need a lot of direction. She's done a lot of swimwear. She just really felt the location, felt the poses, and she gave me what we needed. It's really easy to work with her. For the first look, in addition to the shots that we got on the other side of the pool, we moved and got some shots of her in the jacuzzi. The client liked the idea of having her in the water. Obviously not her whole body, but having portions of her in the water. So we made sure we used the jacuzzi for that. So in addition to what she asked for, I always do a little bit extra in the sense of making sure I have some shots with them standing, laying, just so we can really show off the swimwear. And then I use a reflector as well to give a pop of light. So the third look, I'm probably gonna forget the number of looks that we did while I'm talking about this. For this look, we wanted the model to really utilize the spot and utilize all the accessories around her or props around her. So the curtains turned into a prop, the bed turned into a prop, the pillows turned into a prop. So we used everything that we could around there for these shots. When I'm working on bigger productions like this, one of the main things I always do is shoot tethered. I want the client to be able to see what I'm seeing, so that there's no confusion about the product that we're creating, and also so that I can really see what I'm doing, because I don't want there to be a scenario where I overlook something small when I could have just looked at it on the big screen and fixed it. In addition to getting solo shots, we also got some shots where the models were together. This was done to show that the swimwear came in different designs, but also the same colors. So for each look, there's 5 colors available for purchase. So when we put the two models together, we shot them by the pool and also over here by this wall. This was our way of, again, making sure that we use every piece of this location, every element, because this place was just amazing. And just like every resort, there's a swing. Why is there a swing on set? No clue. Are we gonna use it? Yes. From a lighting standpoint, this one was a little interesting, only because that a wooden pole was there, and then also I didn't have a lot of space for me to move. So what you're gonna see here is me problem solving where to put the reflector to get the most light onto her, because obviously we need to make sure the swimsuit is lit correctly, but also I wanted to make sure her eyes are sparkling. So this is problem solving, me realizing that it's hitting more of her back at that angle. So I moved my assistant around until we found an angle that worked. And this is the model actually helping us figure it out. She's like, wait a minute, I can't see it in my eyes. And there we go. Once we got it, then we could just shoot. There were portions of this where the light was really bright, and then there were also portions where we get an overcast. And again, we were just adjusting as things were happening to make the most of what we had. These were probably my favorite shots of the day. The combination of the chair, the location, the model, color that the client chose for the model, and then her ability to just pose. I think these turned out to be my favorites. She just did a really good job. I really like these images. So transitioning from shooting 2 girls to shooting 1 actually made things easier, obviously because it's 1 person to deal with, but the only thing that made it a little more complicated was switching from someone with a lighter complexion to someone with a darker complexion. So I made my adjustments around that and just compensated for her skin being a little bit darker, but we used the reflector as we could to get these shots. But I'm really happy where we got. The styling and makeup and hair and everything just really came together really well. We also moved her away from that area and got some shots of her right in front of the pool. She did a really good job of posing and then also making sure that we show what made the swimwear special. So we moved her and this third model together. So we got another set of 2 model shots, couple shots, whatever you want to call it, duo shots. That worked out really well. I think the client did a really good job of choosing models. The last shot we did was a big group shot. This was the last thing we were doing for the day. It was no longer hot at all. At this point, the sun was starting to set, so the lighting was very even and very soft. I decided to not use strobes and shoot with just straight natural light. I had my aperture a little bit higher to make sure I could get everyone in focus in the group, but not high enough to where the background details would become a distraction. And then I just let the girls do their thing. We had already shown them ideally what we were going for from a posing perspective, but once we got that, we let them freestyle. And then I also moved them up and down into different arrangements so that the client could later pick and choose what set that she wanted to use. And that was our day on set. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of How I Got the Shot. Please make sure you like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, use that comment section for that. All of that helps the algorithm. It also lets me know what you guys are interested in and the things I need to work on as far as communicating and teaching these different concepts. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys spending this time with me, and be on the lookout for a new video coming soon. And again, remember, I know we all are spending time creating for clients, but make sure you create for yourself as well. All right, peace.